Please welcome to our stage the one, the only, Chuck Rainey.
Thanks a lot. It's always great to come around here. I want to play to a tape, a -1 tape, and I put this tape together for the kinds of music that I like, which I think is more or less, just to verbalize it, it's Latin jazz fusion. During my whole career, I probably have gotten I've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 habits that I play. And I play the same habits on everybody's records, on all the films, although with tempo and concept, it doesn't sound the same. So this tape is sort of put together from my side of what I like to play. And there are different players, and I'll stop it at the end of each song and tell you who the players are. I'm real proud to work with them. And you guys, anything that you like to talk about when I stop the tape, feel free. This first song is called Same Old Funk, and it's off a 1982 album I did, a solo album. And it features Dom Ramal, Crusher Bennett on percussion, James Allen Smith on keyboards, and Roger Bethany on drums. I'm playing a Spectre bass made by Kramer, and I love it. Love it. Thank you all much. Every time I play this tape with all the Latin percussion, it got to work really hard to hear one, but then that's what happens, I guess, in a live situation too. I always work real hard to hear where one is after 30 years of playing, which is a long time to play. But in this kind of music, I always work real hard to find out where one is, or to hear where one is. This next tune is called Sympathetic Magic, and it's more of a chant. And it's me chanting. And in those days, I wasn't that good of a chanter, although it doesn't sound that bad. But in this kind of, it's just me and Paulinho da Costa, just the two of us. We had a lot of fun doing this. And I wanted to do this kind of thing because I just take advantage of playing two-finger chords on a 4-string. I do have a 5-string, which I'm learning how to play. And I hope within the next 100 years, I'll have it together because it certainly is kicking my behind. But this is called Sympathetic Magic, me and Paulinho da Costa. Thank you much. Thank you. I also catch hell sometimes trying to tune up to this tape. Doesn't sound that bad though, does it? Does it sound that out? Does it sound in? No, bass players, no. This next song is called Chung King. It was written by Keita Betts. Keita's an upright player. I worked with Sarah and Ella for a lot of years. And we took this song and fashioned it more to, like I was saying before, the way I like it, which is more Latin jazz fusion, that kind of a thing. And the players are Robert Sanders is playing keyboards, Rick Latham is on drums, Joe Lee's playing guitar, and Gene Glover is playing percussion. I found, too, for most people that have hired me in the past, they haven't really hired me to slap the bass. But, of course, you know, you can't help not doing it, especially if you feel it. And I've always been hired, though, in situations where I've been hired to play what I feel. So I usually try and impose the slap, but not to try and make it more of a rock sound, but to make it more of an old-fashioned sound, or like an upright would sound. If it were slapping the upright. Nowadays, with the pickup systems they have in basses, like these EMGs are very hot. And, I mean, they're very hot. And so I have to be careful in this kind of music when I do slap, so that, because usually, like I was saying before, I'm hired to play, I hate to say this, but from my age group, which is kind of silly, but, you know, there are a lot of silly things that go on out in the real world. So on this particular song, I get a kick out of playing it this way as opposed to playing it with my fingers. Well, thank y'all much. Moving right along. This next song is called, I did an album back in 82 or 81, and it was called Born Again. And this is the title track off that album. It's called Born Again. And it features Don Ramal, Crusher Bennett on percussion, Roger Bethamy on drums. Roger's not with us anymore. And he sure was a loss because, Eric Gale and myself, we always really loved playing with Roger. Roger was from Trinidad, raised in Jamaica, and he had a real hot spot for playing jazz fusion from stateside point of view. The style of this song is about the same thing. As you probably can tell by now, I like to do it all if I can. And it's half slapping and half finger playing. I think on the solos I play fingers, but I get a kick out of slapping the bass as much as I can, being that it is a style that everybody is playing. Boy, that sucker breaks the sweat out. Thank you much. This next song is a little solo piece called "At This Time Now." Hopefully, I'm getting ready to get into a record deal, and if so, this is a song that I want to do. Boy, I'm going to lose 5 pounds up here sweating in a minute. That's it. This next song is it's called Mr. Magic, a Ralph McDonald song. And a few years back, when he did his Path album, he did a calypso arrangement of the version that Grover Washington did and Roberta Flack did, which I was on those records. And I say that very proudly because the rhythm section was just outrageous. And those records sold a lot of records, so it's great to be on records that sold a lot and made a lot of money. I mean, we didn't necessarily make a lot of money, but the records did sell a whole lot. So this is Ralph's version of on his own album of Mr. Magic. And I moved the groove up a little bit so it's no longer a calypso. It's more like a, oh, you'll hear it. I don't know what to call it now. Dom Ramao and Crusher Bennett percussion, Roger Bethany drums, and James Allen Smith is playing keyboards.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you much. I've got several books out, but in one of the books, I think it's called the Technique book. I've got a style that I play that I call the one finger back and forth. Now, time has gone by, and I don't really use that technique that much anymore in playing bass line grooves. Instead, as I learn the solo, and I'm getting better and better and better at doing that, I'm using it more when I solo, the back and forth technique. And on this particular song, I use that particular technique a lot, especially when it comes to the bass solo.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks so much. Does anybody know if if that's called Imitations or if it's called Brazil? Does anybody know? You act like you know. You look like you know. No, I saw your hand go up. I've been trying to figure out what it is, if it's Imitations or Brazil. Leroy, Marlo Henderson, Stevie Wonder, Melissa Manchester, Minnie Riperton. Good friend of mine. Good guitar player, too. This last song, everybody knows this song. It's I've been reluctant to play it because it's not easy, but it's Spain. And Dave Miller's playing drums, Randy Winslow's playing keys, and Joe Lee's on guitar. And the day we did this in Dallas, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So I hope you hear the fun we were having. And we did have fun. And I hope I have fun doing it. But that's my tape. I mentioned earlier before we started that I like Latin jazz fusion. Of course, I like a lot better with a band. It makes me think. In all my career, I like playing rhythm. And when I play the bass, I'm a frustrated Bernard Purdy. I mean, if I were a drummer, I'd probably play just like him, but I am a frustrated drummer. And when I go to the bass, the first thing I always think about is rhythm, no matter what. So this kind of music turns me on. I like to play it a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed the tape. There's probably about 9 or 10 other songs I could have done, but I chose to do that one right there. It sounded great. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. In the techniques that I mentioned that I play, on all records and dates and films or whatever it is that I do, I've got 1 or 2 habits that I play. I'm proud to say that I'm a Jerry Jamot, James Jamerson kind of clone kind of a guy with a little bit of me in there. Well, a lot of me in there. But when I first started playing Jamerson, I was listening to him and listening to all those Motown records, and I had to emulate in order to, the gig. On top 40 gigs, I had to play the Motown stuff. And so a lot of my style is a 1-5-1 style, which, as you probably watched, even though I play a lot of bottom with my thumb, on the 5-string, I don't use my thumb. And I wear the instrument higher so that I can play it like this. My hand is not quite that big. But as I play, basically, I'm a 1-5 Jamerson type kind of player. And when I go to move around, I came up in New York about the same time as Jerry Jamot, and being around him a lot, I got a lot of style, a lot of his style too. As the years have gone by, I put a lot of Chuck Rainey in there. But those 2 guys I give a lot of credit to. Also Jimmy Smith, the organ player. And that's the first time I heard the bass, is The Sermon. And that was way back in 1958. Anybody, every time I say 58, everybody looks at me like I'm an old dog, which I probably am. But have you guys heard that record, The Sermon by Jimmy Smith? Haven't heard it. If you get a chance, if you see it in the record shop, just check it out. As a bass player, you'll really dig it. He took care of monumental business as far as playing bass lines. Of course, it's in a jazz idiom, but I was 18 years old, and that's what I heard. I was a trumpet player, and I asked my mother for a bass. Last year, I had the same bass I asked her for. This year, things are going by a little bit differently. This is the 90s, so I'm playing a 90s bass. Pardon my cold. I came to California and caught the flu. And whoever comes in this mic, they're in for trouble. So you're going to have to really wash this sucker out, boy, because my mouth is all on it. I hope you guys enjoyed the clinic. I'm through playing unless there's something that one of you guys would like to ask me or talk about, strings or equipment or stuff like that. I mean, this one right here. Well, I got a real big hand, and I've always worn the instrument real low, like I'm wearing it kind of high now. I usually wear it right here, so I've got it hanging way down when I do play. And a lot of things that I play, you can't hold it like this, and so I just got into a habit of just playing notes here on my E string with my thumb. The 5 string is driving me crazy, but I'll have it together in real shortly. I have no choice. I've got to do it if I want to compete. But I can't thumb it that way. I can't hold it like that because the bass is not a bass anymore to me. It's a bass, but it's very awkward. And I can't thumb it like that anymore. I've got to play that B string. But I think because I wear it low, that's how I start using my thumb. Also, too, Cornell Dupree and Eric Gale are excellent bass players. Not too many people know that. And Marlo Henderson is an excellent bass player. And when guitar players play the bass, they have a tendency. Do you find yourself doing that, playing chords here and then playing with the thumb down like that? I know back in New York, I used to watch Eric emulate bass, or not emulate it, but he'd take his guitar and he'd play things like on his guitar. And being that they're older than I am, I picked it up as far as playing the bass, but that's how I got started. Come on, guys, we got about 5 or 10 more minutes. Steely Dan, Aretha Franklin, Quincy Jones. I've always had a good sounding instrument, which I don't pat myself on the back for it, but I worked real hard to always have a good sounding instrument. For about 20 years, I played a pre-CBS Fender bass, and about 5 years ago, I put active electronics in it, and it still sounds great. This bass records very well, and I work real hard to make sure that the bass sounds well. 2, I would say that half of my career, 50% of it has been overdubbing another bass player, mainly because what he played wasn't clear. That's also, too, how I got into that back and forth technique, in that I don't use a pick, although I did play a little guitar, but I started using my nail to get that rather than to get that. Also, too, when I sat down to do studio work, I came off the road with King Curtis, and we played in every idiom that there was. And experience, too, is what the average studio player does have a wealth of experience, either from sitting, I don't know what it's like today, but usually you call up a style, and your average studio player knows that style. Also, too, I've always looked at it's a great white-collar gig, like Bernard Purdy and some of the other guys. They still wear ties in the sessions, unless they're on the West Coast. They don't do that on the West Coast. But still, I've always looked at it as a job. So when I get employed, to do a project, I just look at it as a job. And maybe, there are some people that are, we're like everybody else. Some of us are easy to get along with, and some of us are hard to get along with. And I've always more or less stressed to try and be easy to get along with, and also not to feel any ills about being used, which, as I talk, I've never had the feeling that I was being used, although I have been used, but it doesn't bother me at all. I'd rather have my name on the record and have been used than not be on the record, because if you're going to do it, you might as well do it for as mass a media exposure as you possibly can. So I think, too, when I started out, I worked with great rhythm sections, Bernard Purdy, Eric Gale, Cornell Dupree, Some people that just don't come to my mind right now, but great players. And I was a new kid on the block. I was always the youngest guy in the band up until maybe 3 years ago. Now I'm the oldest. But I think I've been fortunate in coming up in New York in music. I wouldn't want to live there now, but it definitely was a great growing thing for me. Everybody can play. So I think being chosen to has a lot to do with general musicianship, to be on time, which I'm on time. I was here 2 hours early, as you know. But I love to play, and I don't, maybe now I might be a little, wishy-washy. And so when they start doing Steely Dan work, he happened to see me on the freeway. He says, Rainey, he called me, I told him, your girl, we got together. But I think he primarily hired me because he knew me, and I had worked with him before. They used a lot of bass players. I think I was very, very, very fortunate to be aired because a lot of bass players did do a lot of those records. And I'd like to think that they like me, although the other bass players are good friends of mine. But, you want to look in the mirror and say, wow, they like me, because you end up being on a lot of cuts. To answer your question more specifically, I think it's what helped me and other players like me is it's a job, it's a challenge, and I'm very interested in just being a part of the project, especially if I know it's going to be successful or be distributed, which you can tell. Guys go in and they have an unlimited budget. The record company's going to get their money back, and you can tell by the musicians that are around you that they don't have all these high-dollar players just to be wasting money. So I'll lay with it until the cows come home, with the best disposition that I can find. So that may have something to do with it, because a lot of other players didn't last but a minute with that particular production team. Well, not really, because there's always a certain amount of projects that you do that they want a bass player. Like I just did an overdub Monday, and they had a keyboard bass part, and the producer wanted a bass player. Now there was a time where I think that bass players did have to compete a little bit, but then those bass players just started playing bass keyboards, which I haven't done yet. I do have some piano skills, but I don't think anybody will ever call me up to play a bass keyboard. I could always MIDI up and get any kind of sound that somebody wants and just play it on a 4 or 5 string. But I don't think it really matters. If you've got the personality there, there's some guys you just rather have, rather than the electronic age or like a keyboard player. I don't know if there's any keyboard players here, but keyboard players don't think the way we think. I've always said, what would Stevie Wonder's music be like if he had a real bass player play it? And I'm not saying that to knock Stevie, but with the technology and what he uses, it would be great to hear Nathan Watts play what he felt, as opposed to Stevie playing, what he felt, or me. I would love to be on some of those records. I like to say this about that, all the stories you hear about those guys, you can probably not so much take it with a grain of salt, but when it gets to the press and Rolling Stone and magazines and interviews, everybody does the best interview that they can to make themselves look okay and to be okay. And then you're going to find a few guys who go in to do their sessions and they get pissed off real quick because they have to do something over and over and over and over again. But when you're making $1,500 a day, it means that you're also making that kind of money from somebody else. And there are a lot of guys who really hated those sessions. Me, I was employed a long time on a couple of those albums, and I didn't care. As a matter of fact, Asia is a very, very good album, and I got a chance to play that album at least 7 times with 7 different rhythm sections. And so the bass part only gets better. And also, too, I only get better because I begin to know the song. So they did take a long time. It took 3 years to do Asia and about another 3 to do the Gaucho. But still, it's a job, and I like the music, so I could play it all day. I go home thinking about it, and then a few months go by after that project is over, and they call again, and I'm playing with another rhythm section, and then I've got a head start, and that I recognize the music and I have a feel for it. I loved it. I wish that they would do it again, or somebody else. It does keep you employed, also. And then when they're spending that kind of money, you know that CBS or whoever they're with, Warner Brothers, they're going to sell that record. They're going to sell it, and that's great because overseas, all over this planet, they buy those records, and it's great to see your name or to have your name on that record. I don't care what it took. I was always glad to be there. I was employed. And as a musician, you know how it gets when we're not employed. So it took a long time. It was meticulous. A lot of things went down that you don't know why this is going down. But it doesn't matter. They have a reason, and I really never cared. You know, are we going to be here tomorrow at 10? At these prices, it's great. It's better than digging a ditch, driving a bus, or whatever it is you can think of doing. I just, you know, I thought it was great to play the same thing over and over again. One song all day, great. Got 9 more to go. And if it happens all day, it's just, I'm employed. I keep saying that. It's not the only reason, but like, I like the music. And there are other players that couldn't hang, you know, and they walk out. And I would never walk away from Gary Katz. You know, he's a nice guy, and he likes me. And he's got a high-dollar project going, so I want to, you know, not to just kiss his behind or anything, but I like being there. There are a lot of guys that didn't get called, either because of their attitude or because of what they heard they would be like, you know. So I enjoyed it. I thought that taking a long time was great. It certainly helped a lot of those records, the bass part. I think that a lot of the bass parts are great, but when you get a chance to play it so much, you know, it's great. Kid Charlemagne, they did that, I don't know what album that's on, but they did that record in 3 weeks, which is another artistry, I think, in order to get it quick and to play it. And probably out of all that Steely Dan stuff, I like Kid Charlemagne. It's got me written all in it. And I played everything I know, all in the same song. But they didn't have the budget or the time. They said, wait a minute, don't do that. You're doing too much of that. So I got away with just playing everything that I know. It's probably the only record, other than I think Aretha's Till You Come Back, where I just played everything I know, and it worked. But as far as Asia, and I think that was Pretzel Logic, but as far as Asia goes, they played it so many times. The bass does sound good, but it sounds good for a reason. They work hard at it, and I got a chance to play it, you know, a dozen times. So I wish they'd take time to do another one. It'd take 3 years to do it, and at the prices that they pay to take as long as they want to play it. No, I found that people who solicit themselves, they're a pain in the elbow. Well, friends know that you're around, and as soon as you start soliciting yourself, it gets to be a pain because everybody else does that. If it's a friend or somebody that knows you, they know that you're around, and when they sit down in post-production or pre-production, whatever it is, the time that you think about putting the music together, you think about the players. They already think about it. And I've been in a lot of situations where people will solicit themselves, and all they do is talk bad about them. Man, so-and-so called me this morning, is bugging me about being on the date, and, you know, and it might be a good player, but for me, personally, I never solicited my services and probably never will. And although I probably have done it once or twice and it did not work. So as a rule, I don't, people know that I'm around. Even if you're a player and you don't think you have a reputation, still not soliciting yourself is going to get the gig a lot better. And then keeping the gig, too. I got a great story, by the way. It's a Steely Dan story. I had a student when I was over at Dick Grove's, a very fine player. And I thought that he was a very professional player, and I thought that he really had what it took to be a studio player, and that's what he wanted to do. My back went out on me one day, and I called up Katz, and I said, my back is out, and I can't move. can I send a sub, somebody just to hold the chair? And he said, well, sure. I said, he's the same kind of player as I am, and I recommend him. He could handle it. And they said, well, okay, but we probably, which they do, they'll wait on a player. So say, for instance, if it were you come in, you sit in the chair, and you play, but they're not coming over it of it because it's my gig, unless you were just so outrageously good or you did something that I don't do, that kind of a thing. But still, it's great for you because they get a chance to meet you and to work with you. Anyway, this one particular player, I call him up, I tell him what the deal is. And we had been together for about a year. And I said, just go in and just sit in the chair and just do what you got to do. So it was Larry Carlton, Bernard Purdy, Paul Griffin, and somebody else. The guy shows up with 2 bases, which one bass is enough of a problem. And because they have long sound checks. You can have the worst instrument in the world, they'll make it sound good. But they don't want the option of going from this instrument to the other one. They want one bass, unless it's a 5-string and a 4-string or a 6-string, that kind of difference. He showed up with 2 basses and about this much material he'd been working on. And he laid it all out in front of his chair, all the little notes that he had on what, just notes, the 2 basses, and he was an hour early. So the first thing that happens is a guy like Bernard Purdy walks in and, what's with this guy? Not trying to really put him down. He did everything wrong. And then as far as playing and sitting there, he had too much to worry about. He was, why am I telling this story, by the way? What did you ask me? Oh, and every break that they got, he was making sure that everybody had his card and, stuff like that. Now, these people are very intelligent. They're very smart. They are aware of you even when you think that you're not. Anyway, he made a total mess out of himself. They still today joke about that guy, which is, it's too bad for him that he's got people like that joking about him because of his card. He gave Walter 3 cards in the course of 6 hours and stuff like that. Now, of course, that's an exaggeration, but I don't think it's cool to solicit your service. Like putting your card up, sending out resumes. Anybody, a bus driver, can sit down and write up a resume, and all of it could be BS. And when people don't read resumes, if they want a bass player, they will ask a guitar player, who you like, or that they're, whoever's on the gig that they like, who do you want to work with, or who can do this gig. So I think the best thing to do is to impress the musicians that are around you, because one of them will get a gig, and a producer or an orchestrator, somebody will ask them, who should we get to play this bass chair. But as far as resumes and business cards and being on the scene, it doesn't help at all. I don't think it does. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I don't think it helps. The playing always tells, and it's among the cats: the guitar player, the piano player, the drummer. They'll ask a drummer in a minute, who do you want to work with, or who can do this gig, if they're looking for a bass player. So I don't. I think it's just best to play live as much as possible, so that everybody in the rhythm section can just say, "Wow, I just heard a cat," and they ask for your card. That's the way I've always looked at it in my career. I know around here with so many bass players that everybody probably thinks about how can they make themselves known or stand out, and it's really easy. Everybody in this school, even among yourselves as bass players, you know who the guys are, even if you don't like them or you got a bad vibe with them. Everybody knows who can do it and who can't around here. And when you get out there, it's the same thing. The playing always tells. It's personality and it's playing. Nobody likes a jerk. There are some jerks in the business, but believe me, they do not get hired. And also, if you play a gig, a jam, or whatever, to me, that's what I did. As soon as I hit New York City, I asked somebody, where can I go to play? Where can I go sit in? And if I saw a band that I liked or a place I wanted to work, I had it in my mind. And now this is a New York attitude talking, but I had it in my mind. If I wanted the job, I wanted to go and take the gig. And the only way to do it is to sit in and play and be better than the guy playing. And sometimes you get you're not as good. A lot of times I wasn't as good as I thought that I was. But I loved the competition. I just could hardly wait my turn to sit in and play. There's only one of us in a band, so somebody's got to, usually when you look at a band, and the ego doesn't have to be negative or big. It's just that I think that it's a competitive world out here. And as we think and as we gain our motor skills, if you want somebody else to hear what's going on, just to play for nothing. And somebody will hear, I don't like playing with bad drummers, though. If I don't like the drummer, and he could be a good drummer, but if I can't play with him, I will not make a fool out of myself and play with a drummer that I know that I'm not going to work with. Also, too, there are times where you need to work with drummers that you don't particularly care for, because they may be happening, and it may be something to learn. But I do not believe in soliciting. I didn't then, and I don't do it now. Well, just wait till it's your turn, I guess. Once you're in one thing, if you have the space to do something else, do it. I do it. I'll play at the drop of a hat. But I never take myself off one gig or one project to do another project. If I were heading a project, I wouldn't like that. Like if I hired you and then here you go over here, or you send the sub. But I will work from 10 to 6 with you, and then work from 7 to 10 with you. And if it's happening, I'll work from 1 to 3 in the morning with you. Of course, you get married and start having babies, you got to think twice about stuff like that. But I will play as many different styles as I can. I don't turn down anything unless it's stupid or it doesn't make sense to do it. If you've got a special interest, it's best to pursue it, because you never know. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe it is for you. But you got to, we were talking before we started, a situation like this is probably the only time in a musician's life, if they're in this school, where you're going to have a year where all you're doing is music. Because as soon as it's over, you got bills to pay, baby shoes to buy, probably, alimony to pay. You gotta start doing other things, and in a situation like this, it's probably the only time to get those motor skills. If there's special interests you have right now, it's the time to really do it, because when it's over, there ain't no room. You got to start making money, or go back to driving the bus, or go back to Illinois or Cleveland. I'm gonna stop saying that. I'm from Cleveland originally. At least it's my birthplace. And they already have enough Cleveland jokes without me making a Cleveland joke. Oh, no, absolutely not. That's Chick Corea's song. No, I probably talked too much about that. It's a song that I always like to play. Stanley Clarke is phenomenal on that record, on that whole album. And every chance I get, I love to play it. But I certainly did not write Spain. I wish I did. I wish I did write Spain. And me and Marlo be going home in one of those long, the helicopter. You guys excuse this cold, boy. I've never had anything in my life like this. And it's kicking my butt real, real good. I'm going to sign out. And again, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you very much. It sounded real good. It sounded great. You guys take it easy and go out and do it.